Hey guys, it's me, Rich. You know, you've been lied to about fascism your entire life, and the academic establishment doesn't want you to know the truth. I mean, let's face it, otherwise you would, right? Every time someone gets called a fascist in political discourse, they're using a term whose real origins have been deliberately buried by historians who share uncomfortable similarities with fascism's actual founder. Do you actually know who was the founder of fascism? No, I didn't think so. You're going to find out today. And what we're going to be going over will completely shatter everything you thought you knew about where fascism came from and why the left desperately wants you to keep this man's name hidden from history. This isn't just an inconvenient truth for them. It's explosive. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to RPW Media. Look, if you like our videos already and you haven't done so, you should become a subscriber to the channel. You can hit that notification bell and smack the like button because it helps us get our message out to more people. And you'll be reminded every time we put out a new video. And thank you. So here we are again, watching the same tired political theater. You're a fascist gets shouted at anyone who dares to disagree with the progressive agenda. Republican senator, fascist. Your neighbor who at the Trump flag, obviously a fascist. Someone who prays, fascist, fascist, fascist. This has been the left's favorite accusation since the 1970s, and somehow it's only gotten more hysterical over time. But here's what's genuinely fascinating, and what nobody wants to talk about. Where does this label actually come from? Is it on the left, on the right? What is it? We're constantly told that fascism is the right-wing monster lurking in the shadows of conservative politics. The left repeats it like a religious mantra, and yes, some fringe idiots have unfortunately embraced it, but are they actually right about fascism's political home? To answer that question, we need to dig into something the establishment really doesn't want us examining. What fascism actually is, where it came from, and most importantly, who created it? What was their ideology? And trust me, the answer is going to make a lot of people very uncomfortable. Now think about this for a second. You know that Adam Smith laid the groundwork for capitalism, right? Karl Marx gave us Marxism, unfortunately. But when it comes to fascism, who was the intellectual architect? Who was the brilliant mind that shaped the core philosophy? Exactly, you don't know. Most people don't know, and that's not an accident. It's not because this person never existed. He absolutely did. But his name has been systematically erased, quietly pushed aside by historians and academics who lean overwhelmingly left because they can't handle the inconvenient truth about what this man actually believed. His name was Giovanni Gentile, born in 1875. This wasn't just another political theorist scribbling in the margins of history. This guy was massively influential during the first half of the 20th century, and his ideas shaped the world in ways most people can't even imagine. He was big time. Here's where it gets interesting. Gentile argued that there are two kinds of democracy. First, there's liberal democracy. That's what we have here. It's that messy individualistic system that we have in America where people get to make their own choices and pursue their own interests. Gentile saw this as fundamentally selfish and obsessed with individual rights. Oh, the horror of people wanting to be left alone. Get off my lawn, fascist. But then there's what he called true democracy. And this is where your alarm bell should start ringing. In Gentile's vision, true democracy is where people willingly subordinate themselves to the state, where they become subservient to government authority for the greater good. What's that sound like? What's that sound like? It should be familiar because we hear this, we're all in this together rhetoric constantly from modern progressives. Like his intellectual mentor, Karl Marx, Gentile believed the state should function like a family. Everyone pitches in. Everyone follows the same mission. Everyone sacrifices their individual desires for the collective good. How's that sound today? And who gets to decide what the collective good looks like? Why, the enlightened government officials, of course. What's that sound like? Let me give you a perfect example of how this plays out in modern American politics. When Bill Clinton was running for president, he made this argument. While Republicans talk about family values, Democrats value families by proposing policies that support them. Translation: if you make yourself subservient to the state will take care of you. Welfare programs, government, healthcare, universal basic income, it's all the same philosophy. Make you a slave to the state, but they get your vote. Remember, 1992, the Clinton campaign ad emphasized work, family, faith, individual responsibility, and community. Democrats today wouldn't even recognize these values. They've moved so far toward pure state dependency. Here's the thing that really exposes this game. At the 2012 Democratic National Convention, they produced a Welcome to Charlotte video that stated, and I quote, "Government is the only thing that unites Americans." They actually said that. They could have been directly quoting Giovanni Gentile. Now, here's the part that's going to make your head spin. Gentile wasn't some far-right extremist. He was a socialist through and through. For Gentile, fascism wasn't the enemy of socialism. It was socialism's successful evolution. It was the version that they thought could actually work in the real world. Surprise, it didn't. Never did. Now think about it this way. Traditional Marxism divides people by economic class. Workers versus the owners, right? It was the haves and the have-nots, the oppressors and the oppressed. Fascism does the same thing, but it adds in national identity as another organizing principle. That's what makes fascists National Socialists. Ever wonder what Nazi actually stands for? It stands for the National Socialist German Workers' Party. They literally call themselves socialists. Now, the liberals who control encyclopedias and dictionaries and what have you in academia, they always like to throw in there that it's a far-right ideology. Nothing could be further from the truth. Gentile believes something that should terrify anyone who values individual liberty, which means your liberty. That the individual doesn't truly exist apart from the collective. Guys, that sounds like Marx, like communism. In his twisted worldview, every personal choice you make, what job you take, how you raise your family, even how you think about the world, should serve the broader goals of society as defined by the state, even if you didn't vote for them. There was no separation between your private life and your responsibility to the public in Gentile's philosophy. Can you imagine a world like that? They weren't just connected, they were identical. There was no breaking them. And who gets to define society's needs? Well, the government, of course. So serving society meant following the state's direction completely in every aspect of your life. This meant the government had the authority to shape not only your actions, but your beliefs, your values, your daily habits, for goodness sake. Nothing was off limits. Your thoughts, your family relationships, your career choices, all of them belong to the state. You own nothing. Benito Mussolini didn't just admire Gentile's ideas, he built his entire regime on them. Mussolini took Gentile's philosophy and turned it into policy. In the doctrine of fascism, Mussolini laid it out plainly. All within the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state. So why do the libnuts today keep saying that right-wingers are the fascists? I mean, for Benito, that wasn't just a catchy slogan. It was Gentile's entire worldview brought to life through government power. And here's something that completely destroys the fascism is right-wing narrative. Before becoming the face of fascism, Benito Mussolini was the most famous Marxist of his time in Europe. He was never outside of leftist ideology. He didn't abandon socialism. He refined it. Even when he was running a shadow government, it was all leftism, all of it. Even though most people have never heard Gentile's name, his legacy didn't just vanish. It didn't disappear. His ideas show up everywhere in modern progressive politics, especially among those who argue that government should take on an ever larger role in society. I mean, just look at what's happened in America over the past few years, the past few decades, 100 years. Massive government expansion into healthcare, into education, banking, energy, things that our Constitution never mentions. There's no such thing as healthcare powers for the government. Just go to Article 1, Section 8, the enumerated powers. They're not in there. There's only 18 of them, so libnuts, you can read them. Now, this approach where the state directs key sectors of the economy while leaving private ownership technically intact is exactly the same structure that fascist regimes used in the 1930s, Germany and Italy. They didn't need to nationalize everything. They just needed to control it. Kind of like what Barack Obama did with Obamacare, right? He forced them to do certain things, but he let them stay private so that they would take the blame when his fascism failed, not the government. This is precisely why you never hear the left mention Giovanni Gentile. They can't afford to. The moment his name enters the conversation, their entire narrative collapses, so they shut you up. They desperately need fascism to look like conservatism. But there's just one tiny problem with that theory. Conservatives argue for less government, not more. Conservatives believe that freedom dies when the state takes over. Gentile, he, like today's progressive left, he wanted to harness individual and corporate resources under central government control. The philosophical DNA is identical. So Gentile gets memory hold over and over again. The less people know his name, the easier it becomes to distort what fascism actually is and where it really came from. It's historical gaslighting on a massive scale. But we should remember Giovanni Gentile. If we don't understand the real intellectual foundations of fascism, we risk mistaking the symptoms for the cause. And that leaves the door wide open for history to repeat itself in ways we might not even recognize. So the next time someone on the left calls you a fascist, you can tell them exactly where fascism came from. It wasn't born on the political right. It's never been on the political right. It came from Giovanni Gentile, a leftist intellectual who built directly on Karl Marx's foundation. That's not an option. That's the objective truth of fascism's origins, and now you know. And here's the bright side. Once you understand the real history, you can't be fooled by the propaganda anymore. The truth has a way of setting people free, and that's something worth fighting for. All right, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.